For example, you know that there was a people called Thamud. And you know that they made houses in the mountains, they're actually sandstone mountains. And you know that they were in Al-Hijr. And Al-Hijr is today what is called Mada'in Salih. It's a city to the north of Medina. And they made similar houses to that in Petra. And they made similar houses to that in Al-Aqaba. And these people truly existed. And these people also wrote about themselves in a script that we think we can almost read. It's called Thamudic. And they call themselves Thamud. They call themselves Sharikat Thamud. And we get the word Saracen from that word. Saracen, which is a word that people used to use for Arabs. They would use Moor for Berbers. So we have the Saracens and the Moors in Spain. The Saracens were the Arabs, and the Moors were the Berbers. But the word Saracen actually comes from Thamud, from the Greeks. Very, very interesting. And Thamudic is also an amazing language. So why don't we study that a little bit better? Why don't we look at that in a little bit more depth? Why is that neglected in studies? And we have rock paintings in the Arabian desert. Rock paintings of camels and of ostriches and of men and women and things like that. That if you found these rock paintings in the Sahara Desert, they would be said to be, 7,000 BC. Okay, that's a long time ago. And that is the beginning of the New Stone Age, according to the way that most people in history date it. That's a long time ago. And if you were to compare the rock paintings of the Sahara Desert with those that you can find in Arabia today, and they're all over the place, they will say, no, not 7,000 BC. Let's say 500. Like, give me a break, okay? Let's have a good deal. Let's have a good deal. I mean, like, if you don't want to give me the full 7,000, then why don't you give me 3,500? Okay, you don't want to go to 7,000 BC? I'll take 3,500. I'll settle for that. They won't do that. They won't give you 3,500. They won't give you 2,000. They won't give you 1,500. Why? Because if they do that, they have to rewrite all the books. Because all the books that are written right now, they will say that who developed writing? Phoenicians. When would that be? 1,200 BC. So if you date Thamudic, which is clearly related to Phoenician and to Ethiopic and to Hebrew and to other scripts and Greek and Latin, then you blew the boat out of the water. It means the Phoenicians did not develop writing, and other people did. And who were they? They were actually Thamud, that people we didn't believe in who are mentioned in the Quran. It's like this. They don't like to do things like that. Okay, so Thamudic is incredible. And one of the things you see with Thamudic also is how they develop their script from the rock paintings. And there is a brother in England, a Muslim brother of South Asian background, who wrote a very good study of that. That's the kind of things that some of us should be doing. One or two of us at least. Not everybody. You've got other things to do. We've got big business to do. We've got other fish to fry. But we've got to fry that fish too. And that's a big fish. And that's a fish that will feed a lot more people than you imagine. So we have a lot of work to do. That's a big challenge. Challenge and response. Challenge and response. And if we are able to meet these challenges, then in the way that people use our language, you make history. You make history. Of course, we always look at history in terms of the Day of Judgment. That whatever we do here, whatever we accomplish here, we want to be in the garden together. And, my sister and I were rivals. My sister's name was Irene. I was born a Christian. And Irene means peace. But she should have been named War. Because for me, she was war. She was older than I was. And she was very strong, but she always was on my case, and anyway, may Allah guide her. May Allah guide my brother and all my family. I got off the subject and lost my chain of thought. So why did I mention Irene, my sister? Big fish, big fish. Forgive me for that. Forgive me for that. But I know there's something that I wanted to say there that I thought was important. But, we have a lot of work to do in any case. We'll come back to that. And one of the main things that we have to do is, we've got to learn, first of all, how to think correctly. And this is one of the reasons why Aqidah is extremely important for us. The creed, that we know that Allah exists. We know that Allah is one. We know that Allah is unlike anything in creation. We know that God has life, infinite knowledge, power, will, hearing, and seeing. We know that He has the most beautiful names. Okay, so how do we know that? How do we prove that? And this is very important because of the fact that when we teach this, we have different ways of teaching it. We have different approaches to it. Some Muslims say, I prefer to stick just with the texts. I will follow what the Quran says and just leave it at that. If I understand it, I understand it. If I don't understand it, I'll just leave it at that. And that is a safe way. That's a correct way. And there are others who will interpret it, but they interpret it very carefully, very cautiously. That's the way of Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah be pleased with him, and his school. His Fiqh al-Akbar, which is a beautiful book, is an extremely careful type of theology that goes beyond just looking at the text, but it's very cautious about the way it does that. And his students who came after him, they were also very careful about that. And they are very careful always to honor the parameters of the law, of the Sharia. And then we have others of the school of Imam al-Ash'ari, may Allah be pleased with him, who used interpretation. In other words, they used intellection and they used ta'wil, interpretation, so that they could speak about these realities to people who had studied philosophy and people who had studied metaphysics, because they're talking in a big world of big ideas. So they grappled with those ideas. The Maturidis also did that, by the way, although they do it in a slightly different way. But this kind of study is extremely important for us today. We have to do it really carefully. We have to do it really properly. But also we will see that when we do that, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, and may Allah give us tawfiq, then we will be able to provide new language. We will be able to provide new paradigms, new cognitive frames, and something like the expansion theory of the universe, something like the point theory of the universe, which they call Big Bang, which is offensive to me. It's like we can actually tell you about what probably happened and what is probably happening. And we will do that on the basis of our understanding that nothing in creation is like Allah.